I don't know. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Was a meeting properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Roll call. We are missing Rick Pease at the moment. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Mike Baker's, seconded by Marge. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposition? Motion carried. Minutes from October 11. Motion by Don, seconded by Baker. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on. Project status. Kyle.
Mr. Chair, yeah, so the departments should have gone through and updated the project status report. If there's any questions, you can direct those to the departments.
Anyone, any questions? Where did I see some? Nope. I see nothing. We will move on. Anything else, Kyle? That it? DA, the Honorable, well, I was going to take Judge Bonnet first. Well, as long as we're in agreement, you know. All right, go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't on. Thanks. Thank you, Judge. You use my bossy voice. Kirsten Berger comes from us with a background in working in like preschool childcare area, but then prior to that, she had worked at Hope House as a sexual assault advocate. So she does have both experiences are frankly very relevant for the position, working with a vast array of individuals. In particular, her past experience at Hope House is proving to be very helpful for the position. So she is still getting her bearings, but as I said, she seems to be fitting in really well, and we are fully staffed, which is a huge relief for our office. And then just last week, after months of the slow bureaucratic process of the state government, a bill, Assembly Bill 166, that was actually originated as a result of the efforts of Deputy District Attorney Jonathan Barnett. He drafted a change to the definition of sexual contact as it pertains to criminal proceedings. And after a truly bipartisan effort, that was signed into law just last week by the governor. So on the unfortunate circumstances is it arose, the reason for the change arose from a case I was prosecuting here. During trial, the judge, it was an out-of-county judge presiding, rightly so determined that the particular set of circumstances, which I'm going to spare you the disturbing details of, but the particular set of circumstances did not meet the current definition of sexual contact. So while I was in trial, Deputy DA Barnett drafted a change that would fix that problem down the road. It wouldn't help us here, but it would help future individuals. And Senator Teston picked it up and Governor Evers signed it last week. So we did have to provide testimony in May Jonathan and I did. And then the other district attorney's office picked up when testimony was needed again later in the process. So truly a bipartisan effort originating from here. And then another update was that actually in September, I was appointed by the governor to Judicial Council, which is it's a statutory advisory board to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and it's comprised of, I think it's 21 members. Only one of which is a district attorney. That's only one position. So I represent all the district attorneys in the state, and what we do is provide advisory opinions to the Supreme Court regarding procedural rules, civil and criminal procedural rules. So that happened in September, and I was able to attend 2 meetings so far. And then in terms of the office, and maybe Judge Bonnet will touch on this, but there has been an uptick in referrals for treatment court. A number of them have been originating from our office in particular. We've been focused on kind of diversifying some of the underlying charges for referrals to treatment court. We used to focus primarily on people who would be coming to our office for drug charges only, but now we're expanding and looking at, we'll make referrals even for instances of burglary kind of situations if they appear to be motivated by drugs. And there has been an increase, and we're seeing more and more. We're almost at capacity for treatment court. So things are going well. So that is my update.
You mentioned,
I mentioned a lot.
but your representation as a DA, and you've attended, I think you said 2 meetings.
Yes.
How often do you meet?
There's a total of 8 meetings a year. There is not one for, maybe it's been 3. So just kidding. It was 3: September, October, November. There was not one for December. Then I'll meet in January, February, March, and then there's a break in the summer. So.
Any questions for the DA?
Thank you.
Most appropriate. All right. The Honorable Bonnet.
All right, good morning. Well, I just want to start by congratulating Rebecca on that appointment to the Judicial Council. That's a really big deal, not just for her, but for our county to have a little rural county. We're sometimes not well known amongst the state circles, but she's definitely not only keeping us on the map in some ways that I did, but getting us even more connected. So I think that's just awesome. She's like, her reputation is soaring in a positive direction around the state. So that's awesome for Adams County. We have kind of a general report, nothing too exciting this month. All our staffing is set, as I reported last time I was here, with our newest judicial assistant after Miranda's appointment to clerk of courts. Miranda has been a joy to work with. That's not surprising at all. We knew that would be the case, but we've done a lot of roundtables on procedural stuff, kind of reviewing things to see where we can make just even small improvements in process and procedure. And that's been really easy and enjoyable to do with her. Most recently, we're working on reviewing our annual jury pool. And if she's going to talk about that, I don't want to steal the thunder. Okay. We're reviewing how we bring in jurors every year, whether the number that we call in is appropriate or should be adjusted, and what our return rate is on those. And we've just adopted a procedure that we haven't had in my entire tenure here. I'm not sure when we may have ever had this, but for jurors that completely ignore their summons for a case and don't show up, we've started a process where we actually summons them into court to answer for that. Unless we know there's a very good or legitimate reason. Sometimes there are mistakes or health reasons, but for people that just don't bother, we're gonna at least, the consequence will at least be in the inconvenience of having to show up and tell the court what happened. And probably just get placed on the list then for a future month. So we're hoping that will decrease. The one individual that we did that with so far came before me and he said, I just had to work. I really didn't I had a job. I didn't really think it was a big deal. Everybody I talked to who didn't show up for jury duty said nothing happens. And I said, that's exactly the reputation we're trying to change. So hopefully word will get out that something does happen. So you should show up and take it seriously, because it's stressful for us to not know how many will show up or to potentially be short. And it's just unfair to everybody, including criminal defendants, to not have the jury panels they deserve. So we also, a number of us attended a virtual training on Amish and Plain communities that was put on by a professor from UW-Madison. This was facilitated by Health and Human Services. And that was a really interesting presentation, about 90 minutes, just kind of an overview of what the various Plain, they call them Plain communities. This might be Amish, Mennonite, or the various branches of those communities. An overview of, what their belief systems are, what their, general culture and lifestyle is like, and then some clarification of common misconceptions, like, do they pay taxes? Yes, they do pay income and other taxes. So just things like that was really fascinating, because as you know, there's some families moving into our county, and there are families moving into a lot of counties. So it was helpful to know when we're dealing with people some more information about their life. The doctor that presented, I believe, is open to sharing his presentation, and we think that the coordinator even said she was going to share it out. So maybe I'll pass it on to you, Cynthia, because it seems like it would be something interesting for the county board supervisors maybe to take a look at. It wasn't terribly long, and it was very interesting the whole time. So. Then, as Rebecca said, treatment court is going really well, and we are at the highest number of participants we've ever had at one time. We're at 13 right now, with a couple of new referrals in the last few weeks. That's the most we've ever had. Our capacity, if you remember, is 15. We've always hovered around that 5 to 7 or 8 mark. So this is exciting. It's a big group. We have 3 people who are in phases 4 or 5. Those are the final 2 phases. So as you remember, we graduated like 3 or 4 people in the last 6 months. So we'll have a couple graduations upcoming. I'd say probably the most notable change in how the court functions is that the participants themselves are really developing a strong presence of like peer mentorship with each other. They hold each other accountable. They give each other tough love when they need it. They call each other out on their lies or half truths, and they're very supportive of each other as well. They have connections outside of court and things like that. So I think that's where a big power of the program is, because there's only one person on the team that openly identifies as having been a drug addict, so a person in recovery. The rest of us are just authority figures with no lived experience. And so at many times we have less credibility than people who have actually walked in those shoes. So for them to hear that from each other, because they know what they're going through, is really, really valuable. So that's it.
Tanya, I don't recall anymore. I know we were told at one time, but how many strikes do they get? They're regressive backwards and before they can continue on with the program.
No set number. It's the premise and the principle of the program is that there needs to be some fairness and consistency, but it's very much individualized. So we may treat 2 similar situations differently because of something, unique between those 2 participants. We have lots of relapse. I mean, people relapse not infrequently in the program. So we test them at least twice per week. Right now we're testing a couple of individuals every single day because they've had some use. This will go on and it won't it won't really worry us when this goes on in phase 1, 2, and maybe even lessening in phase 3. But when people get to 4 and 5, they shouldn't really be relapsing. And if they are, there's probably a very clearly identifiable reason why, and we just target that reason. And several people have relapsed in the late phases and rebounded very well and continued on to graduate. But in the early phases, it's just, it's trying to overcome. Most of our participants have started using between the ages of 9 and 13 years old. That is consistently what they report. Not just alcohol, drugs. So, to think about changing that lifestyle when you really don't have a lot of tools to do that, or you would have already used them and done it on your own, is a difficult road. So that's a long answer to your question, which is there's no set number of violations that you can have before you get dismissed.
And what's the success rate for graduates? Do you find any, or what percentage drops back into that lifestyle? I'd like you to say 0, but
I
I
would
don't know
like
if
to
that's
say
accurate.
0. I would like to say 0, but it's not 0. For just anecdotally, I can think back to our last maybe 10 graduates, and I'd say half maybe. And when you say drop back in, use again, or get new criminal charges, I can only think of one who's gotten criminal charges. Others we know have used and then rebounded. Couple we know have consistently used and gone downhill. I actually gave the graduation speech to the probation agents that just graduated their agent basic training last week at Madison College. And I talked specifically about this. I told them, you're in a difficult profession. It's easy to burn out. One of my pieces of advice was be careful how you measure success. If you think success is 100% perfection, you're going to be extremely disappointed and burned out very quickly. But if you measure smaller successes and count them, you'll appreciate the difference you're making and you'll be more fulfilled. So if I can share one thing, we had a participant 2 weeks ago have a baby. And she's how old? 20?
19.
She's 19 or 20 years old. She's very young. And she was a chronic meth user. When she had the baby 2 weeks ago, she had over 200 days free from every substance, including her drug of choice, methamphetamine, which would have had a dramatically bad effect on her pregnancy and her baby. So almost the majority of her pregnancy was healthy, and her baby was born healthy, not substance dependent, and she's healthy and she's taking care of that baby on her own now. So will she relapse at some point? I don't know. Will she graduate? I don't know, but that's the success, right? I mean, bringing that child into the world and not sending it right away to the Child in Need of Protection and Services Department is wonderful.
Oh, congratulations on that. Rebecca, did you have something? I see you put your mic on, so.
Oh, I was gonna jump in when Judge was talking about when you asked about success rates, and just I know it's hard to know the exact statistics for our court, but when I first got into treatment court, which was when I was still worked for the Ho Chunk Nation, they put it like this: the success rate back then, I think, had been documented at a 40% success rate. Which doesn't sound maybe terribly great, but when you compare that with people coming out of prison, which is below 10%, pick your poison. If our options are sending someone to prison and that or treatment court, and those are your options, why wouldn't you send them to treatment court? And they're coming back into our community, so that's how I always looked at it too. I'd rather have somebody with a better chance of success who's going to be here and we know they're going to be here, than sending them to prison if we can help it.
Well, I know that we was briefed on the criteria to get in, and they certainly would have to want to get in given the alternatives. So I know it's been a while, and I don't recall if that was on HHS committee or if it was the whole board or whatever, but that's something that maybe in the near future should be reviewed again, and it's just, as you review the program. So, but it is important, and even 40%, like you said, that's a long way from zero, so. Yeah. Anyone, questions? Marge? Okay. Yep. All right, thank you for the report. There was a expense report if anyone had any questions. I don't believe so, so we will move on to child support. Janet, welcome.
Thank you. I also want to thank all of you that do the drug court program because we share many participants. And when our participants are involved in drug court, it's like night and day. So a number of counties now have started partnering with the courts to have child support referrals to drug court. And we've thought about doing that. Well, their capacity is almost maxed right now. So maybe in the future, we might look at something like that because we do share a lot of the participants and maybe include that in some of our court orders as a condition. So they do, it's a big difference. Thank you. All right, so I have my performance measures. We're doing wonderful. We are right now going through the applications. Becky resigned last month and we had 11 applications. The deadline was Friday, so it closed and we're reviewing them to set up interviews. And there are several good ones that look like it'll work. So it's just a long process getting someone trained, but right now I have 866 cases in addition to all my administrative stuff. I got all of Becky's cases and Tori has 400 cases. So we're really busy.
So in your office, besides you and Tori,
Mhm.
who else?
We have a
Or-
part-time secretary. She comes in the afternoon, works 4 hours a day.
Okay, and you said you just had one that,
Yes, our specialist.
okay,
There's me and then there's Tori, our lead specialist, and then Becky was a specialist. She was with us for 5 years
oh,
and did a great job. So sad to see her go, but
okay. Questions for Janet? Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really don't have any questions. I think Janet and her staff should just be congratulated because if you look at their numbers compared to the statewide average, on all her reports, they're a lot higher than the state average, which I think shows that staff is just having a tremendous impact for the job that they do. So just want to thank them for that.
thank you very much.
I agree. Well put. Thanks, Mike.
And then one more thing, we want to make sure we invite you all, get it on your calendars. April 16th is Reality Day at the high school. And we will be switching it around to have the high schoolers join us in the morning for the program. They might be a little more attentive and learn more and won't have to leave early for extracurricular activities. So we're going to do that. And if anybody wants to join us, you're welcome to do a whole day or half a day. 8th graders will be bussed over in the afternoon to do their program. It's a little bit easier for them, but it eases them into the financial literacy program.
Marge?
Mr. Chair, as someone who has participated in Reality Days over the years, kudos to Janet and all the people that do put this program on. It's a real asset to the community.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. Anything else, Janet?
That's about it. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season and Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. All right. Moving on. Clerk of Circuit Court, Miranda Christensen. Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, everybody. I am excited to be here. I put together a report for the Clerk of Court on the volume of transactions that we completed in November, and that'll be on the second page. So what we've got in November, we receipted 445 transactions totaling $67,272.02. The Family Court Commissioner heard 34 small claims cases and 28 family paternity cases. We did have one out of county judge scheduled, and that judge heard 5 cases on 3 separate days. It was a situation where it was juvenile cases and a family, and so those cases were heard back to back for 3 of those. We didn't have any jury trials in the month of November. And you can see how the November 2023 and November 2022 numbers compare. And there looks to be a big difference between those 2 years, but I pulled historical figures for November of 2020 and November 2021, and those figures are right along with what we did in November of 2023. So it looks like November 2022 is just kind of an anomaly of volume, so wanted to point that out. A couple things going on in our office. We currently have 1 vacant position. I'm looking to I'm trying to get my feet wet in my position myself. So I'm looking to start potentially the process of maybe filling that position in the next 5-6 months or so I can get a real picture of what the needs of my office are, kind of how everything is split among the staff and things of that nature. So that's my idea for that going forward. Right now, one of the big changes in our office is currently we are a passport provider, and we will continue to be a passport provider through the end of this month. The city of Adams is going to provide the passport services going forward. So they will, over the first quarter of 2024, be opening up. They've already received approval for that. So the City of Adams Post Office will be processing the passport applications. They'll be taking the photos, they'll be accepting the payments, and they will be sending those off. So I wanted to make sure to let you guys know that that's a change in something that our office is no longer going to be doing, but we're excited that it's going to be picked up in the community. So our community residents won't be impacted with that. So I wanted to make sure to point that out. Another thing that we're doing is we've connected with the DA's office and Hope House to help assist petitioners for our restraining order process. So there was a breakdown in the data that was being provided by petitioners who were seeking potential restraining orders or temporary restraining orders. And because they were not aware of what information they needed to provide and were not able to provide legal advice, we can give general direction. And so those petitioners not necessarily being forthcoming with a lot of the information statutorily that needs to be required on that petition would potentially result in those petitions being declined. And so we worked with the judges, Health and Human Services, Hope House, and the District Attorney's Office to put together a process of where when someone comes into our office to inquire about a restraining order, whether it be a domestic violence restraining order or harassment restraining order, what we do is we have a word track that we're using and asking those individuals, letting them know we have an advocate with Hope House that is available to speak with them if they've got questions on the process and maybe how to fill out the forms. Hope House can't cross into the realm of legal advice, but they can provide a little bit more additional information surrounding the petitions than maybe what we can provide in our office. And so what happens if somebody agrees to that contact with Hope House, I get in touch with the district attorney's office. They've been gracious to provide their conference room. We walk that individual over to that conference room. We connect them with Hope House, connect them with kind of what to expect in that process. And then they will come back to our office after those forms are completed, and we'll work on getting those up to the judge for their review. The return rate, we've had about 50% right now that will come back from that conversation with Hope House and say, I'm not going to move forward right now. I'm going to think about it. They helped me, but I don't know if I'm ready to move forward. So it doesn't appear that that breakdown is anything to do with Hope House or the service they're providing. It's just people are coming back to us and saying, I want to move forward or I don't want to move forward. The good thing is that they are making an informed decision. And so we feel good about that. The restraining orders that have been sent up as a result of a Hope House assistance, they seem to, they're not being rejected because the information is bare bones. It's because they're potentially not qualifying for the restraining order based on what that statute, what needs to be evidenced in that. So those are some of the things that are going on in our office. I don't know if I took over my allotted time. I'm not sure what my allotted time is. So it's a lot of information coming at you, and sorry about that. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I provided?
We can only absorb what our hind end can stand. All right. So they're changing, that's kind of loud. They're changing passport photos and stuff going to City Adams.
Correct.
I'm wondering why that is. And secondly, was it simply because no one could find your office?
We thought about handing out complimentary breadcrumb sachets.
Exactly.
But we couldn't get a permit for the food. No, great question. So we're not providing the service mainly because we're processing a lot of cases. We've got a lot of people in court, and the volume has been such that it's difficult for us to sustain the volume of what we're getting. So we're having people come in with multiple family members. We're having a lot of people that will come in and want the photos taken and whatnot. And with our office being short a person and us not looking to fill that in the next quarter, even before when we were fully staffed, it was difficult. You have people come in on Tuesdays and we've got both courtrooms going, and it's difficult for us to provide to deal with the volume. We want to be able to make sure that we are providing a service in an effective, efficient time frame, and we're just not able to do that at this point. It was a little bit easier before we had two judges, but now that we've got another judge and we're staffing and we've got clerks in both courtrooms, plus the other volume that our office deals with on a daily basis, we're happy that it's being kept in the community so that our community isn't having to go too far outside to have that service. So I feel comfortable that we're handing it off to another location just down the street.
This is just a curiosity question, but was the county or your office reimbursed for that, or did you have to collect the revenue, or how did that work?
We received a $35 application fee for the passports, but the amount of income, the revenue that we're taking in, and the amount of when we are looking at the electronics, the paper, the printing paper, the passport machine, that in relation to the time that we're spending, the little bit of revenue that we're making, it just doesn't warrant the volume of other things that are going on in our office.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your report.
Thank you,
Janet.
Chairman.
Again, I want to thank you for the Hope House connection. There has seemed to have been a disconnect, and Tori just went to a domestic violence training given by the state yesterday. and brought back some really great ideas. And one of them is we do have a poster with a tearaway with the phone number for Hope House, and people do tear that off. However, a lot of times the people are together in court, and they suggested that we put these flyers with the tearaways up in all of the bathrooms, because that's when someone can get away, tear that off and get help. So if that's okay, we will print those and make sure that they are in all of the bathrooms in the courthouse. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Jane Jervis is not attending. Hopefully you got a chance to review her report. No questions, so we'll move on. Marilyn Rogers is not attending. Oh, wait, yes, she is.
Always here.
Marilyn, go ahead.
Good morning. So for November, nothing out of the ordinary other than it was a very busy and somewhat difficult month with 22 calls. I don't know if you have any questions, but I have nothing basically to report on that. I just want to reiterate what Judge Bonnet had said about that the class or whatever you want to call it on the Amish people and plain people, because for a few months now I've been desperately trying to get answers because dealing with death, I didn't know much about the Amish ideas or how we deal with them. I've called several counties around us who have Amish populations, and their medical examiners all deal with it differently. So this class, this webinar really helped answer a lot of questions, and also a lot of myths that I thought proved to not be true. One of the things that I was concerned about was I heard that the Amish people do not report deaths as part of their beliefs, and that's simply not true. I was glad to hear that. But I did get a lot of questions answered, and it was excellent. Anybody who lives within or lives among an Amish population really should, I think you should watch that, or if we can get a hold of it again. The only other thing is I am on FMLA leave for at least the month of January, having ankle replacement. So, and I don't know after that what it will bring, but I am at least going off for January. So next month's report will be I don't know if she'll be here to present it, but she certainly will generate the report. She knows how to do that, by Bethany Spa, who is the Chief Deputy Medical Examiner.
Now, who's that's supplementing for you during that month of January?
Bethany Spa.
Okay. All right. Questions? What? Supervisor Baker?
Thank you. Marilyn, what on the different types of deaths that you investigated, what does the referral mean?
That means if something happened in Adams County, let's say there was a car accident, the person lived and they get med flighted to Gunderson La Crosse, where they die, we will then get that call back to us. And that's a referral. Same if they're in the hospital less than 24 hours, even if it's a natural death, that's a referral. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I just had a quick
Miranda.
question. We've had twice in the last 2 weeks, we have had inquiries in my office of individuals looking for assistance for cremation. What is do you have a recommendation on where we could refer people for? Is there an application process? Is there
No, and that's why I said it was a difficult month. I'm trying to work with those people, but
Oh.
so there is something called WIFCAP. I've talked about it a lot in here. It's Wisconsin Funeral and Cemetery Program. And when somebody dies, if they have no money available, we run their social security number to the state, and if they qualify, the state pays for everything. They pay the funeral home $1,500 and that covers the cost of cremation. Unfortunately, we do not get fees, then we have to waive those fees. However, if they don't qualify, as in the case that you're talking about, it means they have money, enough money. So they really should be able to come up with that. There is, the veterans, I think, provide a vault, but that's with a burial, so that's a larger expense than a cremation. I don't know of anywhere to call for help other than the WIFCAP.
Okay, so is the WIFCAP a contact number that we could give the general public if somebody was calling looking for to see if if their loved one would qualify?
I don't know, because it's usually done by the funeral home.
The
So I
funeral
don't
home,
know.
okay.
I
Okay.
can check on that though.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Marilyn? Marilyn, did I read that right? If you had 4 accident victims in the last 2 months?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I knew of 2 and then.
Well, the
so-
2 were in the one accident.
Yep.
And then the month before were 2, 1 the month before. So maybe there was only 3 in the last 2 months.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Marge Edwards.
I just wanted to say good luck on your surgery.
Oh, thank you, Marge. Appreciate it.
Break a leg. Oh.
We've already done that. Thank you.
Well, it's a little humor, very little. Sheriff's report. Mr. York.
Morning, everyone. Any questions, I guess, on what was submitted so far?
Brent, at one of the points you had, and I can't see that, well, hold on. Number in other jails. So what's that?
So that might be, Huber transfers, just different things like that. If they have holds in other counties as well as ours. Occasionally we'll transfer inmate out if there's some type of conflict with a jail staff, like a family member, things like that.
And I would assume that we have 0 from Wood County now?
Wood County, we still have them until the end of the month. They advised that beginning on the 15th, if they remove anybody, they're not going to be bringing new inmates to replace them. So at the end of this month, we will not have the Wood County safekeepers anymore.
And apparently Adams County was ahead of the game in building a jail because Portage County now is building it or have plans to build a jail. Is that correct?
Yeah, Adams County was way ahead. That was a long time ago. That's when I started. And Adams County did very well over the years, early years of making revenue off our jail. And now everyone else is building new jails. Obviously, they're costing a lot more, however, so.
All right, go ahead with your report.
Yeah, so otherwise, just with so we don't, for budget wise with that, we did not supplement that income. However, we plan to increase our DOC holds, which if you look at there's a form in this report as well. The DOC holds pay, I believe, $16 in some sense more a day than Wood County contract. So even if we take 10 more safekeepers from the Department of Corrections, we'll earn additional revenue. So the only other thing I had to add is next week we'll be doing the bell ringing for the Salvation Army, couple dates with myself and staff. On January 10th, we will be having our blue blood drive that we've done for a number of years. That's in conjunction with the Salvation Army and the COPS, which is Concerns of Police Survivors. It's an organization to support law enforcement. And then next week, we will be doing our shop with the sheriff with kids from the county and the school district.
Supervisor Edwards.
Sheriff, excuse me. This isn't in your report or anything, but was the drone up in the air Sunday night?
Our drone, not that I'm aware of.
Because there was one over the west side of the city of Adams, I could see. It was out there hovering and then it went down and came up and had a red light and and white lights on it.
Yeah, the last time I'm aware of that we've used our drone was for one of the mountain fires a couple weeks ago with the assist the fire department in that.
Okay, thank you.
Tanya.
Brent, how do you increase the DOC holds? What does that mean? How does that work?
So we just we just take probation, if they as a ATR, they'll give the person 30, 45 days type of thing in jail as alternative revocation. And so they call out to jails to take those holds. And so some jails won't take them.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize they could go anywhere.
Yeah, it's non-contractual. Typically we've had great luck with them because if they come to jail and they get in fights or do things, then they're going to get revoked and go to prison. So they're very well behaved, much better than the Wood County safekeepers we get. And they pay more. So.
Gotcha. Interesting. Thank you.
What Marge brought up, yeah, do your department have more than one drone and more than one operator?
Yes, we have 3 drones currently. We have our, I guess our original one, our first one, and then I don't know, maybe in 2019ish, we bought a new one that has a thermal on it, so you can see people and things like that as other capabilities, speaker lights. It's a good drone for all around use, and then we also have a mini drone that we would use, like we could fly it in the school if there was some type of situation or a building that's much smaller, but it's more for indoor type use. And I believe we have 4 licensed drone operators. So they actually have to take a test through the FAA to get certified to operate those.
All right. Anything else? Anything else?
Not for me.
Dave? You're making it easy. County manager, anything? Next meeting. Correct? Anything on the agenda for January? Bring it up to Lana, the manager, or myself?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
We need to purchase our squad cars for the 2024 budget cycle on the agenda.
You got them done?
What's
Is
that?
You got them done? Those that were approved, what, 2 months ago?
That was that was a replacement squad car. For full transparency, a week or 2 ago, Chief Deputy Carlson got the call from our dealership that we normally deal with on the state bid. They basically said you have to order today. So the cars have been ordered, but there's no commitment on the county's behalf. But fiscal policy, we have to actually have your approval to buy those.
So. Well, I have heard that, but does it fall within the budget? That
All
plus
the
10%?
All the vehicles are under budget that
Okay.
were ordered, yes.
All right. Don,
For an agenda item for next time.
yep. All right. Yep, we can do that. All right, anything else? Next meeting date,
January 10th at 9 a.m.
All right, that's it. Thanks all. Merry Christmas. And this meeting will stand adjourned. Thanks again.